Hello and welcome to another Purveyor of Light Photoshop quick tip. Today we're going to have a little bit of fun here. We're going to do a composite real quick. We're going to take an ordinary mason jar here and we're going to go ahead and make it a populated mason jar with an object inside it. Real fun project. Test your skills, improve your compositing skills and that. And the sky's the limit on your creativity here. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to start out with a mason jar. Okay, and I have the picture as a background. And then I have a beautiful blonde lady in a red dress. So we're going to put these together and we're going to wind up with something like this. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is open up a new document. So I'm going to go up there at File, New, and I'm going to go 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. Okay, and I'm going to hit Create. And so now I have that and we're ready to go. So the first thing I need to do is bring that mason jar in. And I'm going to drag it in with the Move tool and drop it in. And I'm going to then hit Command or Control T. And that's going to let me size up the mason jar as big or small as I like. Okay. And when I'm happy with that, I hit OK. And so now that I have the jar in place, I need to bring in the background picture. And there's the background picture, and I'll use the Move tool again and drag it and drop it in. And there we are. Okay, so obviously the picture here is much bigger than what we need. And so we're going to need to do some transforming, and we're also going to need to position it so that it's in the bottle. So to help us along, we're going to reduce the transparency on this layer so we could see an outline of the jar to help us size it up. So I'm going to go to the opacity, and I'm just going to lower the opacity. And you can see as I lower it, I begin to see the jar. Okay? So this is going to help me position the picture and size it up. So with that layer selected, I'm going to hit Command and Control T. And then if you don't see your handlebars, hit Command 0. So, as you can see, our picture is much larger than the image here. So we're going to size it down. And I'm looking for the railroad tracks to be in the, toward the base of the picture here. So I'm doing some adjustments until I size it up to what I want for the picture. And in position. And again, no right or wrong. It's just about sizing it up till you like the aesthetic inside it. Okay? And maybe a little bit smaller. Right about there, I think. I think that's pretty good. We've got the railroad tracks coming evenly out of the base of the jar and then continuing into the thing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to accept. And okay. So now you may ask yourself, well, now we have all this excess stuff. How are we going to get it to fit inside the bottle? And so we got to turn around and clip in, and it's actually very easy for us to do. So if I select the lower level, which is the jar, okay, and I take my cursor and I put it on the picture itself and hold the Command key down, Command to Control, and click, you'll see that puts an outline. So we have the shape of the jar. So when I click over here, and now I say, give me a layer mask, you can see now we're layer masking so that we're only showing, it's restricted to the shape of the bottle. So it's a very easy trick there. Okay. All right. So now we have that, and we need to then go in and work with this. Let's see here. We're going to need to do some touch up. Again, I'm going to use some, reduce the opacity so I could see the jar in that. I need to be able to see the lid and that. And on the mask, I'm going to zoom in here, okay, and position myself so that I could see. You can see that I have some remnants of the bottle here in black. It overshot onto the rim of the jar. We're going to correct that right now by selecting the layer mask. Then we're going to make sure that we are painting in black. Okay. And we're going to take a brush and we are just going to carefully paint away. Okay. And you'll have to use your square bracket, left square bracket and right square bracket to size up your brush as you work. But just continue on and just be careful. Okay. You don't have to be overly excessively active. Okay. But you want to give it that appearance that the jar is in existence. I'm taking away from the rim of the jar. Okay. And you can see that makes it much more realistic. Okay. So now we have our thing here, and I want to turn around and do some corrections on this. These black lines are bothering me. Okay. And the black lines are coming from the bottom layer, as you can see. So we're going to switch over to the bottom layer. We're going to turn off the top layer, and we can see the black lines now very clearly in the jar. So we're going to just select the lower level, and we're going to use the healing brush. It's a quick and easy way to do this. And just take your healing brush and do a stroke down. And the healing brush does a really good job. It usually does. And take your time. And if it doesn't go right, you can always just hit Command Z and do it again. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because most people are not even going to notice it. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. There's some other areas that are black here down toward the bottom. I'll do a little bit of touch up here. And there we go. Okay, with that done, we are now ready to bring our transparency back onto our picture. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. So the next thing we need to do, it's a little bit flat and we need to enhance it a little bit. And it's going to be done by several layers. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the hue and saturation because I want this colorful fall look to really be saturated. So I'm going to use my hue saturation adjustment. And I'm going to increase the saturation. Okay. And so I'm really pushing that up. The before and the after, you can see how I'm really pushing it. The next thing is I need to restrict it to just the background layer and not to the jar or anything else. So I'm going to make it a clipping mask by hitting this icon right here. Okay. And that makes the effect only inside the layer below it. So in other words, the background layer. Okay, so that looks much better. And so now I want to turn around and we don't have an appearance that we're actually in a glass jar, right? Where it looks like the picture is just the shape of the jar silhouette. So we need to do some additional work to fool the eye that we're believe that we're behind glass and that it's inside the picture. And that's easily done, okay, is I'm going to take the layer of the jar, and I'm going to hit Command and Control J twice. Okay, so I'm going to bring that one copy up, and I'm going to move it above the saturation, and then I'm going to change its blend mode to lighten. Okay, so now you can see through the lighten thing that we could see the jar more, right? But the picture is very faint, so we need another layer. And so I'm going to click on another one here, and I'm going to bring it above there. So now we have 2 layers. I'm going to change the blend mode of this one to multiply. Okay. Now the layer that's lightened, I'm going to really drop the opacity on. Okay. Just enough so that we have a layer of that jar. Okay. All right. And we need to duplicate this layer one more time. All right. Command and Control J to do that. Okay. And we find a blend mode that's going to work nicely. Give us the appearance that we wish. And I'm just running through them one at a time so I can see which I like. Darken isn't bad. Multiply isn't bad. Color burn. Let's try multiply, and then we're going to do a levels adjustment, and we're going to lighten up the picture a little bit now. And I'm going to make sure it's just a clipping mask, and we'll brighten it up. And so that's not looking too bad. Okay, so now that we have that, we've got the jar here. We need to give it a like a shadow of that. So we're going to come in and let's do a curves, okay? And I want to do a shadow, so I'm going to darken it down, okay? Now bear in mind this is only going to affect just where I paint, so I'm going to, on the mask, I'm going to hit Command or Control I to invert it. Okay, so now the mask is turned off. Now I can sort of just paint, okay? Painting in white. I can use my brush, okay? And I can do, with a low flow, we'll say about 25 or so, and I just do a light burning. Now what I'm doing is I'm burning this end because I want to give the jar a 3D appearance. Okay, and by darkening one side of the jar, that's going to give it more 3D. Okay, and this will all come together. Now the opposite side, on this side, I need to lighten it. So I'm going to go ahead and do another curves layer, but this time I'm going to pull up on it, and that's going to let me brighten it. Okay, and again, invert the mask, Command or Control I, and then now painting on that in white, I'm now going to lighten here on this side of the jar. Okay, it's amazing how the eyes get fooled so easily about 3 dimensions. But basically, you could turn anything into 3 dimensions just by lightening and darkening it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right. So now I'm looking at it here, and that's not looking too bad. So let's see, finishing touches. I may turn around and just do a little bit after the hue and saturation. I may do a little bit of brightness on this. So I'm going to do a curves adjustment and maybe bring it up just a little bit to give it some life. And I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we got to bring the red dressed lady in. And so I've got her on a layer, and I'm going to drag and drop her in and roughly position her. And as you can see, we're roughly too large, so I'm going to hit Command and Control T to transform. And I'm just going to size her till she's appropriate for the frame. Okay. And that's going to be completely up to taste. You know how far railroad tracks are, so use that as your judgment how big she should be in the railroad. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so the only thing here is I need to move her up, get her away from all the adjustments. There, she's properly adjusted there. And that's looking pretty good. I may turn around and do a little bit of a curves adjustment on her. So I'm going to actually do a levels layer, and I'm going to do it just to her clipping. And I'm going to just lighten it up just a little bit. I don't want to have her too just playing with the input output sliders just a hair. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now we need to bring this all together. We got some color matching. You know, you can tell that one picture is from another picture. We're going to use a lookup table. So we're going to come up and do a lookup table. And since we're in a fall color theme here, I think bringing it together would be under fall colors. So, and that helps bring in everything much more believable. And you can adjust the opacity to what you feel is appropriate. So there we are. And let's see, one last touch, right? Let's come all the way down to up to the top, and I want to add a gradient. So I'm coming down, and I'm going to select gradient, and I am going to come down and pick one that I like to work with. And let's see. I think that's not too bad. Let's see how that looks. We're going to drag that all the way to the bottom. Yeah. And let's I think that'll work. Okay. So there we are. We have taken a successful here, and we could spend more time on color matching and that, but you're getting the general gist and techniques. Okay? So there you go. You've taken an ordinary jar just like this, and you have turned it into this beautiful composite. And again, I recommend you jump right in there, grab a picture or two from yours. The Mason jar, you know, they're not hard to find. You go online and do a Google search for a Mason jar, and then start putting it all together. and your creativity. And when you're done with this, that's a kind of nice effect. It's unique, it's different, and it makes a nice photo. So there you go. So hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And until next week, you guys take care.